Welcome to the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. My name is Lee Davey. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone who doesn't drink alcohol. I spend every waking moment of my life helping other people do the same as we continue to build a movement of millions of people who don't drink alcohol so our children don't have to. Thanks for joining. Episode 147. Don't change the label, change the culture. But before I start talking about labels, I want to welcome Craig to the Strive Community Forum, the Strive Movement. Just recently joined. He said he's been listening to podcasts for a long time, said he's been reading what people have been posting in the Strive Movement. And he eventually today found the courage to write an introduction and to tell people what he's all about. And that is a big, big, big step. If you want to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol, posting on Strive for the first time is a big step. And I get it. The reason you don't want to post on there is because, you know, these online groups, they're a little bit fucking stupid, aren't they? They're a little bit sissy. They're a little bit dull. They're a little bit, I don't know, they don't even work, do they? This is ridiculous because we are used to talking to people face to face. Most people who come to Strive who have a problem with alcohol, you know, we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s. We remember a time when if we wanted a conversation with someone or had a problem, we had a face-to-face chat. So there is a little bit of worry and concern that all this online tribe thing is a load of nonsense. But I can tell you this. We've been a movement now for a little over a year, and I would count some of the relationships I have on Strive as some of the most deep and connected that I have in my life, okay? So I think that is really important to share that with you. Now, what was I going to talk about today after I welcome Craig? Oh, I have started to take the Seth Godin Bootstrapper workshop. So I've talked to you in the past about the marketing seminar that Seth Godin runs, and I really love that, and I really highly suggest that people take that if they have a business or a brand or even want to improve their life. The Seth Godin Marketing Seminar is fantastic. But he's also created a new one called the Bootstrapper Workshop, which is designed for people like me, people who are trying to create a business using their own money, using their own resources, and just flying off the seats of their pants. So I just started that, and I'm finding it really interesting. I think that over the next 100 days, you'll see a lot of changes as a result of that. One of the first things that people are talking to me about on the Bootstrapper Workshop, because it's a peer-to-peer kind of a community on there, is should you really be calling the Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience the Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience? It's too long. The Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience doesn't exactly roll off your tongue, does it? And it doesn't really tell somebody what it's about, okay? Now, I've kind of defended that by saying, well, it's very unusual for someone to appear on the Truth About Alcohol or Strive and I've never heard of this, because most people come through the podcast. And if you don't know, the Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience is a 2-month experience where I help you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol. So most people know that, but I think they have a point. So watch this space. Maybe the Truth About Alcohol Life-Changing Experience will have a name change soon. If you think that name is a pile of pants, then send me an email at leedavypoker@gmail.com. Give me some feedback. Okay, it'd be great to hear it. Anyway, on to this episode today. Don't change the label, change the culture. And I've started to become a member of Alcohol Concern Cymru. And so they've started to send me emails and reports and about what's going on in Wales when it comes to alcohol, okay? And one of the things they sent me recently was a study from some peeps at the University of South Wales. I'm hopefully going to get one of them on the show to have a little chat about it, where the researchers discovered that people who are shopping for alcohol are not paying attention to the health warning labels before they buy them. So the way that they did this is they grabbed about 25 people, I think, and they fitted them with some special eyewear. They didn't really tell them what the whole kind of experiment was about, but they just gave them some money, told them to walk into a supermarket and to buy some booze. And what they found was people looked at the price. So they looked at how much a can of lager or a bottle of wine would cost, and they were interested in different makes and different brands but they didn't read the health warning label. All right. Now, I drank alcohol from the age of 14 to the age of 35. And I can tell you that for me, it was brand mainly. So when I was drinking cider, for example, I could drink Strongbow, but I couldn't drink Old English. Old English I just couldn't drink it. It would make me vomit, just a couple of mouthfuls of it. I couldn't drink Woodpecker. It was too sweet. So I drank Strongbow and Magners, right? They were the drinks that I drank. When it came to red wine, so price for me, when it came to what pints I was drinking, didn't really come into it. But when it came to spirits, same thing. Price didn't come into it. It was all about which spirit would taste the most, would be the most palatable with a mix with it. So Pernod and lemonade would be palatable because it tastes like aniseed. Bacardi and Coke for me would make me vomit. Vodka and Coke I could just about manage. Gin and tonic I could just about manage. That type of thing, right? But it was never about money. But when it came to wine, money was a factor. There were times, more often than not actually, when I would drink 3 bottles of wine for a tenner. Can't remember the make now. It was a big, huge vase, like a flower vase. Can't remember what the make. And that was all right for me. But there were a couple of wines that I felt I liked at the time. I can't remember what they're called, but they cost a little bit more money. And I've also been the dickhead who's been at a restaurant and spent over £200 on a bottle of wine. That's another story for another time, all right? So for me, brand and price, yeah, I see that. I get that. Especially if you're counting the pennies and you don't know where your money's going to come from, but you just want to drink, you're going to buy some cheap shit, right? Now, here's the thing when it comes to health warning labels. I don't even know why universities anywhere in the world would even think about wasting their money trying to do an experiment on health warning labels. Anybody who knows anything about alcohol and the reasons why we drink alcohol should know verbatim that it has nothing to do with health, right? People drink alcohol and they know that it ain't good for them. They know that, all right? But they take a punt, don't they? We believe we're immortal. We believe we're Connor MacLeod from Clan MacLeod, right? We know that smoking and drinking and eating a lot of fatty stuff is shit for us, right? But we never actually believe we're going to die. We know we're going to die, but it just doesn't compute. Until someone turns around and says to you, you've got a week to live, you just do not get it, do you? I used to smoke and I knew that I was going to die of cancer, but the death and contracting cancer was so far in the future of my life that I just was able to cognitively provide some dissonance and ignore it. And it's the same with alcohol, okay? People, you're never going to get someone walk into a supermarket, pick up a can of lager, look at the label and go, fuck me, I didn't realize this was bad for you, okay? It isn't going to happen. So I just wanted to say, it's the same with limit, like how many units per week can I drink? Like, is there really seriously someone in the world who stops drinking, is in the pub and they're drinking rounds with their mates and they turn around and say, it's your round. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not having any more. I've had my 176 units this week or whatever it is. I mean, that's absurd. That just isn't going to happen. Okay, we need to wrap our heads around this. And it's a shame that the people who are doing these research activities are not clued up enough to research in the right areas. And maybe I could do something about that, okay? If we take Wales for an example, where this study took place, people in Wales drink alcohol because it's culturally encouraged to drink alcohol. It is deemed appropriate. When it comes to drug taking in Wales, alcohol is the only drug that you can take and people are happy with you taking it, all right? It also, though, we're also aware that same culture that tells you that drinking alcohol is normal and pleasurable and that alcoholism is a byproduct of drinking too much alcohol, that same culture also teaches you that drinking too much of the stuff is not very wise. Now, I don't mean it teaches you that drinking more than 10 pints on a Saturday night is not very wise. I'm saying because the culture has created a scapegoat and they've named it the alcoholic, and it looks a certain way, it sounds a certain way, it smells a certain way, then it enables you to continue drinking alcohol as long as you don't drink too much and end up like this guy, okay? The drink too much, the demarcation between drinking enough and drinking too much is the alcoholic. So as long as you are not like the alcoholic, you can keep drinking. And this is one of the very subtle traps that alcoholism, the invisible, violent, and dominant belief system, creates in order to keep us drinking. It's this illusion, okay, that we are not alcoholics because we don't look like this disheveled, piss-smelling guy who drinks vodka out of a brown paper bag. In the realm of what we perceive an alcoholic to be, and I would say that is someone who loses control of their alcoholic intake, I would say the vast majority of people in Wales could define themselves as alcoholic quite easily, right? Quite easily. I'm going for a family meal tonight with my parents. Everybody there will drink alcohol. Why? Because they have done all their life. If you've drunk alcohol for 40 years, are you addicted to it? Have you got a problem? You know, I happen to think, yeah, the answer to that is yes, you do. Okay. So of course, we're never going to read a label. We're never going to read a health warning because quite simply, and I'm going to paraphrase Seth Godin here. We drink because that's what people like us do. People in Wales drink. People like me drink. That's what we do. Okay. It's the culture. Do not change the label, change the culture. Now, that's, and before I go on, how do you change the culture? Well, you create a movement of millions of people who don't drink alcohol like Strive, okay? Like the truth about alcohol. And then that enables our children to look at us as parents and to say, oh, I don't have to drink alcohol to be cool. My dad and my mum are cool as fuck and they don't drink alcohol. It's about raising our children, okay, that they never see you drink alcohol. So they never have to have that conversation, all right? Now, we don't drink alcohol around Zia, but we do drink coffee around Zia. I don't, I've just knocked it on the head, but my wife drinks it a little bit. Zia already at the age of 2 is turning around and saying, that's coffee, Zia's not allowed it. Now, what that means is you're telling a 2-year-old that there's something mysterious and mystique about this coffee that is only for adults, which means as she gets older, she's really, really going to want it because she knows she can't have it. And at some point, we're going to have to tell her that the reason we don't want her to have it is because it's a drug. And then she's going to say, well, why do you drink it? And then we're going to come up with some nonsense that says, well, moderately taking a drug is okay. And then that's creating a value system, a belief system, a framework. We are programming her motherboard to say, well, taking certain bad things in moderation is okay. And that will eventually lead to her trying alcohol, drugs, etc., smoking, whatever, okay? We want to give her a different way. You know, we want to behave a different way. So I think that's really important. So what do you do about it? You join this movement. You join this movement that we have got, and we help you become someone who doesn't drink alcohol. And instead of just stopping drinking and moving on with your life, you actually continue to be a role model, and you tell people about Strive. You tell people about the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. You tell people about the truth about alcohol. Now, here's a thing I want to share with you because I think it's super important. Although I don't believe putting health warnings on alcohol is any use, it's just complete fucking waste of money. And I'm saying in the same way that you see them on packets of cigarettes, right? So you pick up a packet of cigarettes and you see like a fucking, I don't know, like a mouth of somebody falling apart like a zombie. I mean, they're horrific. So, I mean, at some point, maybe the alcohol industry will go that way, but think about this before you do that. There's a great book called Biology. Okay, let me see who wrote that book. Biology. So there's a great book called Biology. And the author of that book is Martin Lindstrom. And Biology, the truth and lies about why we buy. And what Martin Lindstrom wanted to do when he wrote this book, Biology, was he wanted to rig people's brains up to an fMRI scan, okay, to figure out what was going in the brain when they were exposed to certain branding and marketing ideas. And one of the things that he did was he got a group of hardcore smokers and he stuck them in this fMRI scan, and he put all these little pads on their brain or whatever, and then he subjected them to the horrific images that you see on cigarette packs. So he showed them packets of cigarettes with these health warnings on there that if you continue smoking, you're going to die. If you smoke when you're pregnant, you could end up killing your baby, all these different types of things, okay? And what they found was quite astounding. When they examined the brain activity throughout the period of time that the smokers were reading these health warnings, instead of them being put off and not wanting to smoke, the part of the brain that leads to craving a cigarette started to light up like a Christmas tree. And what Martin Lindstrom and his people found out, that the government was plowing, and the tobacco industry being forced, were plowing millions and millions and millions of pounds into advertising to tell people that smoking was horrendously bad. But what they were doing is they were making people smoke more cigarettes. So in that case, if that is true, and this scientific study shows it is, then if you were to put labels, health warnings on alcoholic drinks and increase the awareness of that, you might actually trigger people to want to drink more alcohol. So I think that is a really important thing to think about. We may believe that these health warnings are going to be a good thing. And I was once of the school of thought, hey, let's just throw everything we have at this alcohol thing, right? Let's even though I don't believe in this spouse it off about this unit limit nonsense, let's do it anyway. Even though I don't believe in the health warning, let's do it anyway. Like if we could just bombard, maybe we could kill alcoholism with death by 1,000 cuts. But I'm not quite sure that's a savvy way to go about things, right? I do think we need metrics. I do think we need to understand whether our actions are working. And that's one of the reasons why the Truth About Alcohol Life Changing Experience, we have metrics. We understand that 44% people finish. We understand that 41% of that 44% are still not drinking 6 months afterwards. Those metrics are really important. And I think the same should be done for research students who are looking at, things like labeling on alcohol drinks, that kind of thing. Does it really work? Is it really effective? Is it really the best use of our time and money? I would rather use that money to find a way of marketing to get more people on Strive movement so we can help them change their philosophy and change the culture around drinking, rather than spending that money on sticking labels on it. So there you are. Don't change the label, change the culture. If you've got any questions on this whatsoever, send me an email at leedavidpoker@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening as always.